Welcome, friends, to the Soul Talk podcast, a show where we explore and uncover the path to the heart, amplifying your conscience. Join me as we meet incredible souls who are in this journey and learn from their experience and different methods that will make you vibrate your heart. Let's get into it. Hello, everyone. This is Monica Ramirez, the Warrior of Love, and thank you for being in Soul Talk. And today we have Martha Burich.
Burich.
I'm sorry, my first language is Spanish, and I have problems with pronouncing last name sometimes. But well, Martha, she is an author. Yes, you can raise happy, responsible children. And she had this book endorsed by Jack Canfield, a co-author of Chicken Soup or the Soul, the series of the success principles. And what he said, quoting, "It is my pleasure to endorse this remarkable book, knowing that he has the potential to transform the lives of families worldwide." That was amazing to get that endorsement, Martha.
Thank
Congratulations.
you.
Thank you for being here. Martha, please tell us a little bit about yourself. What do you do? How you got here? And what are your qualifications to be here? And talking
Well,
about parents, that is so important right now.
sounds good, Monica, and thank you for having me. Yes, I was very honored that Jack endorsed my book this way. Um, these are the things that I learned when my son was 4. Oh Lord, he was spoiled. Good heavens! And it's because you know what? We were good parents, his father and I. We were good parents. You know what that means? That means you're a pushover. You say yes. You don't know how to say no, and you raise a child who's entitled and whiny and spoiled. And then we think, good parents think they have to do everything for their child. Well, good parents are completely wrong. We needed to be responsible parents. We needed to be mature parents, and we'll get to that later. What besides the fact that my child was spoiled, and I turned him around in 6 weeks. But and then what I learned is in this book, a lot of it. But also I taught child psychology. I was a child psychology professor for 10 years, and I was a high school special education teacher for 16. So I have, really decades of experience in changing behavior and in dealing with really some very, very bad behavior and turning it around. So, if you're having problems with your children, don't feel guilty and don't feel like, oh my goodness, what have I done wrong? You know, all jumping into this pit inexperienced, and parenting is a wonderful thing, and your kids are lucky to have you. The very fact that you're even watching this podcast means that you're interested in being a good parent. So, whatever you did yesterday, you know what? Forgive yourself. If you think you need to make some amends, then make up for it. And then, determine as soon as I know better, I'm going to do better. And you're going to learn some information today. Hopefully, that will help you. Plus, I have courses and besides the book is really, let me show it. I'll show you the book. Yes, you can raise happy, responsible children. This is up on Amazon in Kindle form and in the book. It's only about 60 pages and it's all bullet points. What do you do at the grocery store when the child misbehaves? What do you do in the car when he won't put his seatbelt on? What do you do when he's ignorant and mean to somebody? What do you do when he doesn't get along at school? So just really little bullet points. Here's what you do. Here's what you do. And basically, the number one thing: prepare your children. Don't just walk into the grocery store and expect them to behave. We need to prepare them. Look, we're going to the grocery store. Here's what I expect from you. I expect to be able to see you at all times, and you need to be able to see me. If you can't see me, that means that I can't see you, and there's a problem. Because I'm going to get all upset because this is a big place and I don't feel like running all around looking for you. Now, don't scare the child and say a bad man's going to get them. That's too much for children to handle. And the odds on that are low, but it's not that it is a possibility, but don't scare the child. Just make sure they stay next to you and say, you know what, if you don't stay next to me, you'll have to sit in the cart. Do you understand? And of course, the child will say, yes, I understand. All right. So then you're shopping, and then boom, he's gone. She's gone. What? All you do is you calmly get the child and say, I see you decided to sit in the cart. Gently put the child in the cart. Don't be mean and ignorant about it. put them in the cart and say, now help me look for the bananas. I got to find them. Give it, and then give the child something to do. Hold the cereal. Where's your favorite cereal? At every aisle, have the child, put them on a hunt for the food that you need. Where's your favorite this? Where's that? Oh, have the child constantly give the child a job to do. And if you have two, one needs to take care of the other, and they should always hold hands if they're old enough, and always put something in their hands so they don't grab stuff off the shelves.
That is so, so true. I had four. And
Ah,
oh, yeah, it was in the first two, of course, I was younger, and I wish I had the knowledge that I have now
right.
when I had them. And they don't come with instructions. And it is different. They have different needs, different wants, and we wanted to treat our children like they're cookie cutters, and they're not cookie cutters. Each one has, they're different,
That's right.
and that is
That's right. And
challenging for new parents. I'm so glad that I'm already a grandma, but but uh, but it is having a lot of patience with them, and
mhm.
sometimes many parents, new parents, do not know what to do with them. Or I have heard this one from many other parents that they say, "Well, I'm educating my kids as I was educated as my parents educate me." And not all the time that was the wiser move for our parents to, because we
Mm,
come with instructions and we just repeating the same mistakes that our ancestors did.
mm,
How
right.
do we achieve um, that kindness and um, that kindness in a way for a child so it can become a responsible adult in the future?
That's right. That's what they need to become is responsible adults in the future who are not completely self-centered. And that's really what we're finding way too much in especially developed societies today. Our lives are so easy. Even people who have very little money still have phones, televisions, um, ways to listen to music, have access to education, transportation. It's very rare that any of us really have to do any kind of work. Can you imagine way back, let's go back 100 years, where, when you got up in the morning, the first thing you had to do was feed those animals. Nobody ate until the cows, the pigs, and the chickens were fed. And then if, 100 years ago, mom died. Well, mom would be laying on the sofa, the body, until the coroner or the doctor could come and take care of it. But in the meantime, all the children had to get up, take care of the younger ones. The animals had to be fed. The breakfast had to be made. The younger ones had to be taken care of. People got on with their lives. They didn't worry about, oh, how's my dress? How's this? They wore the same clothes every day. If they were lucky if they had pajamas. So, we have it so good now. And there's a saying, hard times create hard men. Hard men create good times. Good times create weak men. Weak men create hard times. And that's exactly pretty much what's happening. We find ourselves addictions, um, upset at it's the slightest thing. We're driving down the road and someone's going slow in front of us and we're having a fit. Why? Just pass them. Just pass them. Or people aren't going to always do what you want them to do. And see, and that's part of the problem. We have to raise our children to realize, guess what? No, when people say no to you, accept it. Learn to accept no and not be offended by it. Learn to take criticism because everybody needs to improve, and don't get yourself all upset about it. But see, they can't do these things because their parents haven't learned to do it yet either. So you have children who don't have the skills they need. When you get upset, don't talk to your children when you're upset. Calm down. Don't let them talk to you upset. They need to be calm before they can talk to you. Otherwise, you're not going to get anywhere. We can't talk about this. And if your children have devices and it's causing a problem, don't just grab the device away. You need to have a discussion. You need to say, you know what? We're going to have to talk about these devices. What's a good time? I'm too upset right now. We can't talk, but we're going to talk about it tonight or tomorrow. What's the best time? and we're going to have to make a schedule because you're on your device too much and the rest of your life is suffering because of it. So you have to have those talks, but then again, you too have to be the good example. Are you on your devices too much? You know, I have a parenting method, the 3 L's. Love them enough to say no. Lead by example. Don't tell them not to smoke, and there you are. Don't tell them drinking's not good, and there you are. And then let them fail. You know, let me give you an example. Third grader comes home from school. Mom, Dad, guess what? They're having a play at school. They're having a play. I'm going to try out for the lead. Oh, hon, I'm so happy they're having a play, but the lead, oh, well, there's only one lead. You might not get it. Why don't you try to be one of the trees? You'll probably get that. You have a better chance of getting that role. Well, immediately we teach our children not to go after what they really want, but what they think they can get. How many times do you hear people saying that they're going after what they think they can get? Well, I don't think I can get that job I really want. I'm going to go try that job, that other job that I think I can get. Well, how, then we're constantly settling. Well, you know, I can't get that man, that guy as a boyfriend, but this one's available. He's okay. At least he's got a job. See, there we are going after what we think we can get instead of what we really want. And that lifelong, you'll hear people in their 80s saying the same thing. So if we want to raise responsible children, they've got to learn to hear no and accept it. They've got to learn to take criticism, which doesn't mean that you dish it out all the time. And in order to criticize, you have to sandwich the criticism. You know, here you do this well. I need to see you improve in this area, and you also do this well. You know, you need to sandwich it, and well, there's so much more to this. But anyway, those are just a few things to get us started.
That's so true because as an adult, and I see it with many of my clients that I coach many clients, and they have the self-worth problem.
Mhm.
And the self-worth, like I mentioned, is not to guilt the parents because the parents were passing for the same thing. But the parents are the ones that installed it. Like the example that you give of the play. And they cannot go for whatever they really want in life. They're gonna settle and they're always gonna be miserable. As the
Mhm.
parents were, probably the grandparents and so on and so on. So we parents we tend to project ourselves to our kids.
Right.
Where what if I wanted to be a ballerina, I wanted to push that into my daughter. But maybe she's more a tomboy. She want
Mhm.
to be a ballerina. Why I'm gonna force my kid to be for the dreams that I wish I had?
Mhm.
And that's a mistake that it continue repeating and repeating unto this day. So no one lives a fulfilled life because they're
Mhm.
trying to please their parents. And even when the parents are dead, we're still pleasing them, trying to please them, and they're not even here.
That's right. That's right. And often you get sibling rivalry, and you know you'll hear children till they're 70 years old. Mom loved my brother better. Mom loved my sister, whatever. Or in fact, I have a friend, we were on the treadmill and she was talking, her children are in their 50s. She was talking about how her daughter had just told her that morning, well, you know, you always gave him more than me, blah, blah, blah. You know, it doesn't, and you know what? I cannot love each of my children the same. You know, they say you want that they want us to you loved him more or less, whatever. I can't love you all the same. You're all different. I love different things about each of you. I'm human. If you want a robot for a parent, uh, let's you know, I wonder how that's going to work. I wonder how that's going to work because nobody can have a robot for a parent. But I'm a human being, and I appreciate different things about each of my children in a different way. It doesn't mean I love anybody any less. And love is not a pie. Love is infinite. I can have infinite amounts of love. Sure, I can appreciate this about your sister or brother more, and but I appreciate this aspect of you more than other things. So you know what? It all comes out in the wash. But if you're going to sit around and whine and cry, you're never going to get anywhere. Because as long as you're like, you know, my mom always loved my brother better, and that's why I didn't excel. Oh, a nice excuse, isn't it? Why aren't you excelling? Why aren't you doing what you really want to do in life? Oh, it's mom's fault,
And
dad's fault.
it creates a competition in the future where the parents, the later on, they're not even there. And they
Right, yeah.
to each other. Why? For something that happened when they were little.
But then again, there's two sides to that coin, Monica, and that is elite athletes often say that the competition they had with their brothers or sisters is what made them excel. It made them practice harder and do more because they wanted to beat them.
Yes. It depends also too much in the parents and the knowledge of the parents. If you have narcissist parents or things like that, that is going to create a bunch of conflicts for self-esteem, self-belief, and self-worthiness as an adult later on because of those issues. And
Mm-hmm.
going back to those problems, something that I noticed since I was raised in Mexico and I have my three kids in Mexico, and my fourth one was born here. And in Mexico, we never had the issues like, oh, you're dyslexic, or you have a attention deficit disorder, or you have this, or you. They don't put you in those classifications. But here in the United States, it is. They want to give those pills to every single kid, and they want to put it in all of them has attention deficit disorder, so the teachers have it easier. Let's give him medication instead of learning that each kid is different and they have different ways of learning. So more and more visual, so more auditive or
Mm-hmm.
tactile. They're different, and that's part of being human. So how we deal with that when you have a kid that it is have attention deficit disorder, and the teacher is the one recommending medications. I know they cannot prescribe, thank God, but they are the ones insisting to the parents that that's is the best thing for their kid. What is your
Mm.
opinion about that?
Yeah, you're really walking a fine line there because the research really shows that all those children that get on those pills early on, they become drug addicts as they get older because they can't. The one thing they can't sustain the pills, the doctors will not keep giving them to them through in perpetuity forever. They usually cut them off at a certain age. But even if they don't, then the child's dependent on the pills. But any pill never lasts forever. Then they always have to up the dose or change the type of pill they're taking. And the havoc that any pill wreaks on the body, people have no idea of the research that's done on these things that nobody knows about because the pharmaceutical companies do all this research, and whenever they find anything negative, they never tell anybody because they aren't forced to. So you really have to be very careful, not to mention the brain chemistry, how any pill changes your brain chemistry, especially a pill that um, claims to get you focused. And some people swear by them. Okay, some people take these pills, swear by them. And the way that you develop your attention is you develop your attention. You sit with a timer at a table, set it for 10 seconds, and see if you could just sit there for 10 seconds and don't do anything. If you can't make 10 seconds, set it for 5. Then every day, add another 5 seconds, 10 seconds. See, what people think is attention deficit is oftentimes reinforcement from devices, because devices, the pictures change every 6 seconds. Our world, we're getting quicker and quicker sound bites. I even find myself watching Facebook reels rather than reading through things. Too long didn't read, TLDR. Yeah, and I find myself thinking that. And I have a PhD basically. So yes, what they're doing is they're training us to not think fully. And they're making us think, everybody has a label now. Everybody's got a label. Why? In fact, one woman said to me that, let's see, her husband is on the autism spectrum and she's got attention. I think she said attention deficit. And I thought, well, isn't that interesting? They seem normal to me. He's got a job. They have kids. They're managing their lives. Why do they need labels? How about we're mom and dad and these are our kids and let's move on? Because the label, I don't see that the label helps me to get what I need. And when you teach reading, whether a child's dyslexic or whatever, the first thing is they got to have a book in their hand. And you teach the phonics, you teach the sounds. Supposedly dyslexia came because they tried to teach students whole language learning rather than phonics and the letters. So that's some of the information that I've heard and some of the research that I've heard about.
That is so funny. Me coming studying in Mexico, coming from Mexico, I was never put in a box. So I never got therapy or training or nothing. And I apparently I'm dyslexic and I have attention deficit disorder now for the boxes in the United States. So when I saw that and my daughter was telling me, Mom, you have this and this and this, like you're trying to put me in a box. I'm not gonna take any medications for that. And like, hey, I've been going so far in my life, having all these boxes apparently that I never knew that I had. So I learned how to deal with that.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I'm a very creative person. Yeah. Okay. I have more ideas. Okay. Yes. All the time I'm thinking how to creating like a attention deficit disorder person. Yes. And I'm gonna go in moods ups and downs like a attention deficit disorder. But everybody goes like that. Everybody goes like that. So what is the difference? Why I need a medication or
Mm-hmm.
a diagnosis to put me in a box?
Mm-hmm.
That is not gonna be helpful. That is gonna actually cut my wings in a way. Like, oh, I cannot do that because I am dyslexic, or I cannot be a public speaker because I am dyslexic or this and that. I have spoken Harvard now with all these issues that they want to put you in a box, but they put it
Mm-hmm.
there little. And what I see it right now in the school system, that many of the teachers, they don't want to deal with imperative kids that they have too much energy or they're very curious or they're asking too many questions. So those are the ones that this is the majority in the schools. It is not like before, like when the teacher become a teacher, it was because it was in her heart to be teaching a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's just a job.
Mm-hmm.
So I hear from so many teachers they're like, oh, your kid has attention deficit disorder, and it's impossible to teach him without medication or this and that.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
How do parents would deal with that pressure of the same system? Because we're talking
Mm-hmm.
education and we're talking in medical industry, and
Yeah.
trying to fit
Yeah.
in at the same time. Poor kids. Hi everyone, this is Monica Ramirez, the Warrior of Love. And you have been feeling stuck where you are right now, or if you have felt that you cannot connect with others in the same language or the same emotions that you're feeling, if you're a coach, a healer, energy worker in any of those branches, maybe this is for you because we have felt the disconnection for the rest of our family, friends, that we cannot connect to them. And we're so afraid to actually go deep dive when we're getting triggered by our own clients because we're seeing our mirror image with them. My name is Monica Ramirez, the Warrior of Love, and that's my spiritual name. And I take clients from feeling confused and feeling stuck to feeling free, to feeling that they feel empowered from themselves. I created a system, Path to the Heart, that goes in 3 levels. And the first level, it is healing the inner child, healing the parts of us that we've been so afraid or it's very painful to do it. I have done it myself, not only with me, and I have done it with many of my clients that I take them to this process. The second level, it is to go more into inner self, clearing the family lineage, to breaking the contracts and vows, learning deeper more about the laws of the universe. And the third level, it is learning how to channel, how to do waking up your and getting online your gifts, your unique gifts that the world so much needs right now. So, if you wanted to know more about this, I am eager to show you and to teach you all what I know that I use every day in my life. So, thank you for being here in this page. I really appreciate it. And this is Monica Ramirez, the Warrior of Love. So,
This is definitely a societal problem. And as a parent, you have to really think, how am I going to handle this with my child? Especially if your child does have a lot of, behaviors, but you have to work on them at home. See, a lot of times what happens is the child goes to school, and usually only children are very adult oriented, and they go to school and they're used to having everything their own way. So they aren't good team players, only children. So that makes it difficult for the teacher. But also, you have to talk with your child. You know what I recommend? If your teacher is saying things that your child isn't behaving, blah, 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 you need to block off time and go to school and sit in that classroom. I did that when my son, from the time he was in kindergarten, I sat in on his classrooms to see who was there, what was going on, how the teacher interacted with other children besides just him. And you really, if the teacher's saying that your child's misbehaving, because you need to see what he or she is doing and what's going on. Because, you can talk until you're blue in the face at night when the child comes home from school. But the truth is that the child's being rewarded somehow for that behavior at school. And, when you're in a classroom, a teacher has 20, 30 students. Um, she doesn't have time to correct everybody's behavior. And a lot of children's behavior gets worse simply because here's what happens at school. The worst behaved kids start getting rewards, and they get all the attention. Well, all the good kids see that and they're like, wait a minute, he never does anything. And she just gave him some candy because he sat in his chair for 5 minutes. He didn't do any work, but he sat in his chair and didn't do anything and didn't disrupt. But I never get anything, and I always do my work, and I never bother anybody. Then they all start, then they come home and they're frustrated, and then they go to school and they start misbehaving because they see that misbehavior gets rewarded. Or they're seeing, students who really don't know how to behave. So kids learn an awful lot of bad behavior at school, and that's why I really recommend parents go to school, make an arrangement with the teacher. I'm going to be in the classroom at this time, and find what the usual routines are and what's going on. Because and if the teacher comes home and says your child did this and that, you need to take the child with the teacher and say, okay, the teacher says this is what happened. Is that what happened? Is that how you see it? And the child can say their part. And then you say to the teacher, what do you want the child to do? The teacher will say, I want him to sit in his chair and do his work. And then you say, okay, are you able to do what the teacher wants? And the child will say yes. Good. Are you willing to do it? No. Okay, why aren't you willing? Because I don't understand the lesson sometimes and I can't sit there. Or I get restless. Or so and so talks to me who sits behind me. Or, and then you get some information. But when you're just like, come down and demand of your child, well, the teacher said this and blah, blah, blah. And you're not blaming the teacher. You're not saying the teacher isn't telling the truth. But there's two sides to every story, and we each see things from our perspective, which doesn't mean that anybody's wrong.
That is so true. I love this because it never occurred to me to do that, and that should be very, very helpful. Now they're older.
I can give you an example. You want to hear an example?
Yes, please.
My son was third grade, and the teacher said, Anthony does his work. He's a good student, but he never helps anybody else. So I said, Anthony, come here. Is this true? You don't help anybody? He says, no, I don't. I said, why not? And he said, because when the teacher gives instructions on how to do the work, they don't listen. And I'm not, and I get done early because I pay attention and listen to her instructions. So why should I take my time to help them when they don't do anything to help themselves? Ooh, he had a point there, didn't he? I said, oh, okay. Now we know why. Good job. Because the other child's disrupting the class and everything else and keeping everyone else from being able to learn. So why should he get extra attention? He shouldn't. He needs to learn to sit and listen to instructions and take notes.
That is so, so true. And that was very wise. And something that I also see that is happening worldwide, and parents that are getting divorced, have younger children. And obviously, both of them are fighting for their attention and their love of their children. The children is the one in the middle. And I bet you have seen that a lot happening, and I see it with my clients, and that's when the problems start happening with the children
Mm.
because both of them are trying to win them in a way. How a divorced couple, because they're going to continue being more divorced couples, how a divorced couple they can deal with it for the best because at the end both of them love their children. They might not love each other, but they love their children and they want the best for their children. So, what advice you can give to them in the moments of separation and all this chaos that are happening to their children in this moment?
Unless there's physical or verbal abuse, you need to let the other parent do parent their way and live their lives. Also, this is very difficult. You know, we're all basically 5 year olds in whatever age body we are. We have unresolved love, feelings, thoughts, disappointments. And unfortunately, when divorce happens, you know, we're hurt. We adults are hurt. And we put our children in the middle, we don't realize that we're hurting them. If we talk about the other parent, or we ask the child, what's going on at your dad's house? What's going on at your mom's house? That puts the child in a terrible, terrible position. Because then, for one thing, if you talk poorly about the other parent, then the child wonders what you talk about, what you say about the child when they aren't there. So, first off, you know, you simply got to stop any kind of bad mouthing anybody. And if there's a big problem that you think something really bad is happening at the other parent's home, you need to talk to them. You need to talk to the parent, and if the police have to be involved, I mean, they have to be involved. The main thing is that your child is safe. And if they're not safe at the other person's home, but if the other person has a new girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever, that's really none of your business, except unless they're left alone with the children and they don't really know these people. That's a whole nother thing that needs to be ironed out. You need to meet these people. They're being left with your children, you know, so you got to grow up, mom and dad. Time to grow up. Okay, your relationship didn't work out for whatever reason, but guess what? You married that person for a reason. You loved them at one time. You saw the good in them, and they still have that good. You need to remember what it was you fell in love with and what you liked about them. And remember, nobody is all bad. And because things didn't work out for you doesn't mean that that person's the devil. And your child has to go over there. So you can't be talking bad about them. That makes life way too difficult for your children.
And the guilty conscience for whatever the reasons they divorce, there are going to be people pleasing more the kid.
Mm-hmm.
So want a new game, a new this, a new that, and they're going to give it. And the other parent probably is the one that doesn't have that much money and is not going to give that. But they're buying the love of the kid, and that creates also conflicts. Am I am I
I
wrong?
hear what you're saying, Monica, and that's immaturity.
Yes.
And when the child gets older, they realize that. But you can't expect a 5 year old to realize that one of the parents is trying to buy their love. And okay, and they have more money. And when the child comes home and they say, oh, we did this and we did that, you say, you know what, that's great. Here's what we do, you know, and just say that's great. That's great. And if the child says, how come we don't do that? Say, well, you know what? That parent has the money for that. We have the money to make cookies at home. We have, you know, we do other things. So, wow, that's great that they can do those things and help you with that. This way, you get the best of both worlds. And you know, and don't feel bad because you can't. Okay, you can't provide for the child that way. Feel blessed that somebody can. And if they feel like they want to buy your child's love, what can you do about it? That's immaturity, buying a child's love. But you know what? We're like I said, we're all big 5 year olds. We're just trying to navigate and get through things. But realize, don't play that game with your kids. Never, 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 never. And I mean, you're not supposed to ever say what, never and always. Never, never, ever ask your child which parent they love more. Never, sometimes you see these TikTok or Facebook things where they want to see which parent the child goes to first, when they call them. Why do you do that? Why do you play this game? That immediately this child feels like they did something wrong. No matter what, oh, you went to dad first? You didn't go to mommy first? And then the child's like, oh my God, what did I do wrong? I went to a parent. I went to a person that loves me. What did I do wrong? You know, that's immature to set up these, which one loves me more. One parent posted on Facebook that her aunts take care of her 2-year-old while she's at work. But when she comes home, the 2-year-old doesn't run into her arms. She likes being with the aunts. She's had a good day and they have fun. And the parent feels like somehow she's the child doesn't love her enough. You know, why aren't you happy that there are people who love her and want to be with her? Grow up. Grow up. Well,
Yeah.
I'm being a little too forthright here today.
But you're very right, because those things happen in the old times. Mom stay at home, take care of the kids, and that work. And he was the provider. In these times, both parents work. There's,
Right,
there's no other way to do it.
right.
And you have more than one. The other day, I was even realizing myself, my kids are already adults. And,
Mhm.
and like I mentioned, I am a grandmother, but I was realizing all of them, they were asking me for attention, adults. And I was thinking, why I had four? Because they, even if they're old, they still require attention of mom or dad.
That's right. That's right. That is so true. And you know, when your parent dies, because my mom passed on 2008, and you know, and my dad had already been dead. And when my mom died, I thought, you know what? I'm nobody's baby anymore. And even now, at my age now, I still feel that. So yes, we want our parents to love us and appreciate us uh, as long as we live. You know, as long as our parents alive.
That is so true. And there is a, that's for a different podcast, but there is a syndrome of the orphan syndrome as an adult.
Oh.
Because I observed it when my mother died, and it doesn't do that, but that's we should have that one for another talk. Right now we're focusing on the kids, but that is very, very real.
Mhm.
But I wanted to ask you, how do you, one of the things is, how do you make children behave without punishing them?
Oh, right. You know, punishment is overused and overrated. You know, there need to be consequences. So if the child doesn't behave, doesn't do okay, let's say the child's running. You're at the store and the child's running. Well, don't yell, stop running. Go up to the child. You know, you can yell first, but go up to the child. Look them right in the eye and don't be angry and mean about it. Look them right in the eye. I want you to walk. Walk. Get that human connection. See, we don't get enough human connection. We correct our children, but we don't stop and talk to them. So that's the number one way is make a human connection before they misbehave. Tell them what's expected of them. Let's say they're in the house and they're making a whole bunch of noise. And you say, you know what? I need you to be quiet in the house. If you want to make noise like that, go outside. Okay, all right. So then they start making noise again. Then you simply say, I see you decided to go outside. All right, you're going to go outside and play for for the next 20 minutes, and then you can come back in. Or you can until you get all your noise out of you. And then when you get the noise out of you, you can come back in the house. You know, like timeout. Timeout should really only be for calming down. You need to calm down. As soon as you calm down, we can talk. You know, they don't need this. Oh, let me tell you this story. I had a student in my child psychology class, and her 2-year-old put his shoes in the microwave.
Oh,
She spanked him. She spanked him. I said, why? She goes, what he did was wrong. I said, I do plenty of wrong things every day. I make mistakes. He sees you put stuff in there all the time. He doesn't realize there's a difference between food and he sees you put a plate in there. He sees you put frozen dinners in there. They're not all food, they're boxes and stuff like that. He was experimenting. And I said, you know what? If every time I made a mistake, I got hit, I would probably be standing in the middle of the room crying, afraid to move. And that's another story. There was a child whose dad abused him. And the child was about a year old, maybe walking 14, 16 months, Dad, Dad scared the child so bad that when Dad came home, the child would just sit in the middle of the room and cry. He was afraid to do anything. When you excessively punish people, give me that phone. And then that's when they go nuts too. Okay, the kid's on his phone all day long, and suddenly you take the phone and just give me that phone. Turn off that game. You got to have talks about this and prepare. Look, I see you're on your phone too much. You're playing these games too much. I'm your parent. We've got to cut this down now. We're not going to do it today, but I'm going to tell you tomorrow you will have your phone from this time to this time, and then you must give it to me. Are we in agreement? And if the child's not in agreement, you have to say, why not? Okay, I'm your parent. We're going to do this. And let's see what happens, because you're getting too attached. You're too much of your life is wrapped up in devices, and you're not being well-rounded enough. So have that discussion. Don't just grab it. This is when kids go nuts and destroy everything in the house. Have you seen some of those videos where the kid goes nuts? Yeah, you fry his brain. I've got a story when Anthony, he was 4 years old. We went nuts. I told him, I bought him a toy, and I said, now look, and I shouldn't have. I said, now I'm going to do my shopping. Now you have to let me shop, or I'm going to take that toy back. Now he was, I was such a pushover. He didn't believe me. So he was just misbehaving left and right. He was a pain. I said, you know what? We're taking that toy back. He didn't believe me. We took it back. I got my money back. He went nuts, screaming and crying and kicking and hitting me. And, I'm holding him like this. Oh, he could not control himself. I fried his brain because I said no and meant it. This is what happens to children. They become addicted to their devices. And if you just grab it from them, that's like taking a drink from an alcoholic. It's not gonna go well. You gotta have a talk.
Something that I remember when I was growing up, for the parents to have a nanny, it was the TV. And now is phones or computers and name it. And the parents still see that. It's like you're putting the nanny, any of the devices for your children. So like that, you can have time out, or you can have a conversations in the phone, or whatever it is, or working, whatever it is. And you suddenly just take it away from them. Of course, it's going to be an issue. The nanny should not be the technology or the device to
Mhm.
start.
That's right. That's right. One little girl, a child psychotherapist, told this story. One little girl said, "I wish my mother paid half as much attention to me as she does her phone."
Ooh,
Mm.
it's a sad one. But it is true. We become addict to all the technology at any age.
Oh, even at our age, I have problems stopping. Okay, now you've had enough. You've been on here 15 minutes. Put the phone down right now and get work done. Yeah, even I have to control myself, and yeah, because the technology is so addicting. It's built that way.
Yes, and we are programmed when we were children that that was our nanny in a way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The person that take care of us. It was not even a person, but it was a TV in that time. We didn't have computers, but we had a
Mm-hmm.
TV, and that was our nanny.
That's right.
So how now as an adult we can shift that? How will you tell a parent, even if they're working, because many of them or us, I wake up and I'm answering emails and messages and so forth, and to stop so we can give the time to our kids.
Right.
You
You've
know,
got to make a schedule. You've got to make a decision. And also, don't let your children have their devices in their bedrooms. All phones, computers, tablets cannot be in a child's bedroom. Anytime a child is on a device must be in public, in your home, in the living room, in the kitchen, where people can see who they're interacting with. You have no idea who's on the other side of that game. 12-year-old children are interacting in these games with 30 and 40-year-old men, and they don't know it. But the men know who they're interacting with, and the children are completely innocent, don't realize what they're doing. One child said, well, I use a fake name. Yes, but you get on there and you say you're 12 years old, you're a female, right. And you don't think that they don't know who they're dealing with. Um, yeah, so that's why you've always got to make sure they are not on their devices alone by themselves. And at night, the children must sleep. Put all phones and everything's in your room, locked up, whatever, something, so they can't sneak out of their bed at night and get it. And then there they are from, 2 to 4 in the morning talking to their friends, and then they won't get up and go to school.
Yeah. So something that it change, of course, when they start growing up, because then become a teenagers, and that's a different story. And then an adults, but in the teenagerhood, something that I see after 2020, many kids went into a horrible depression because they were in lockdown. They don't have, they couldn't go to schools,
Mhm.
and you can see this all on a board everywhere in the world that the kids are actually having more mental issues
Right.
since 2020. And it doesn't matter they were little it was easier because they understand I cannot go to my friends or I cannot see my friends because I'm with my parents. It is cool, and they're little, they understand those things, or they want to be more close to mom and dad. But when they become teenagers, that creates a different thing. That's when they don't want to be with the parents. That's
Mm.
when they want to be with the friends. And that's a different, very different story. How we can approach as a parents when they were teenagers. When they're teenagers, I'm thinking when she was a teenager, my daughter was a teenager. Now she's an adult. But how we can approach that. The parents that they have teenagers approach technology because you cannot put it in lockdown. They will go for it.
Oh, right. Yeah. Well, you know what? You're going to have some kind of discussion about that, especially if they're still in high school. If they're still in high school, you have to stay in control. And you know what's really something that really gets to me? Once the child hits 18, you will pay for their college if you choose to, but you do not have a right to see their grades. Now, my deal with my son was always, I'll pay 100% for every A and B. I'll pay half for C's, and if you make less than a C, you're going to have to pay for that. So he would have to pay up front, and then I would pay him back. But because I wasn't going to pay for bad grades, because too many students go to college, they think it's party time, and they flunk out because it's a big party and they aren't responsible. So to make them responsible, you could make that arrangement with them. They could get the loans and then you could pay the child back for the good grades, not the bad ones. They're responsible for those. But yes, until the child is out of high school, whether they can stand for it or not, the bottom line is I'm your parent. And until you get out of high school, I'm going to stay in control of this. You need to get up in the morning. Now, if they don't have any problems getting up in the morning and you can trust this child and they aren't up, that's totally up to you if you want to let them have their device or not at night. But you have to really make that call. But also somebody, if your child is in control, that's good. But if your child needs somebody to help them, you need to help them and you keep the device. Also, children, when they become teens, uh, they want a divorce. They want a divorce from mom and dad. It's because they're growing and they need to separate from the parent because they're becoming an adult themselves. So what happens is a lot of times is that you get a lot of disrespect. Don't allow that. You really need to have a talk with your child and say, look, I totally understand that you're growing up and it's time for you to distance yourself from me. But that doesn't mean that you insult me and put me down. It mean you still need to have a level of respect for me because I am your parent. I love you. I only want what's the best for you, and you know that.
That's
And I've always been there for you. So you need to be respectful to me, even if we disagree.
And something that I would like to add for what you're saying, because it is so true. It's like my daughter and me, we have a great relationship. She's in high school. And she told me the other day, Mom, I feel guilty because I have to tell my friends, because she have a bunch of friends that they having conflicts with their parents. And it's like, I have to say that you were bad to me and mean to me so I can fit in with my group of friends. And I was like, oh my God, that is horrible. That is horrible that to fit in, they have to do the tantrums, they have to misbehave so they can fit in with the rest of their friends at school. And I was like, oh my God, like I hope you grow up fast because she don't behave that like that with me, but she invented. So
Yes, and Monica, this is how children become addicts, how they get involved in bad behavior in order to be accepted. So she's saying to you, in order for me to be accepted by these people who don't have good character because they speak poorly of their parents and they don't do good behavior, but in order for me to be accepted by them, I have to behave poorly. I have to reduce my character. But that's really interesting. I hope she gets some new friends. I hope she opens her eyes and sees. But you know what? The only way out is through. So hopefully soon she'll see that these people are not the people that she wants to be with. Because the only way you get better is to hang with people who are better. But she's young and she's finding things out. So but for her to have that conversation with you is very interesting. But that's exactly what happens. I go every Monday to the jail and every Wednesday to the treatment center, and I talk to addicts and alcoholics. And it's always the same story. All the people they know are addicts and alcoholics.
Yes.
Every time they try to stop, they get no support. They all want to try to drag them back into that, because guess what? When you start doing better, all your friends who aren't doing better, they start thinking, wait a minute, she's showing me up. She's got to come back in the fold. It's just like, your friend loses 20 pounds. Oh, here, honey, you want a piece of cake? You're right, because we feel bad. So, and sometimes it's not even conscious. So yeah, it's good that your daughter had that conversation with you and she realized that. See, a lot of kids don't even realize that she was actually reducing her behavior. She was saying she was saying things that weren't true in order to fit in. Isn't that something? Wow. But
As you-
that's society.
yes. And this, I would like to talk about your second book that is coming in 2025. Yes, you can teach them all. Tell us a little bit more about your book, please.
Well, that's more about relationship. If a teacher has a relationship with a child, when I was teaching, I had a student. Oh my goodness, she was, oh, she was just, I don't know what I can say. I just couldn't figure out how I was ever going to reach her, ever, ever, ever. And another teacher said to me, Martha, you've got to bridge the gap. You've got to make a relationship with her. I was thinking, oh, I don't know how I'm going to do that. She said, well, you know what? Why don't you ask her what her favorite magazine is and buy it and bring it to her? And so I did. I forged a relationship with her. Well, she we she was the one who told me, the other girls and we all had gym before we had your class. We used to sit around and try to find ways, think of ways that we could make you mad.
Oh,
because because I was so easy to make mad. I mean, I was learning too. So, but then because I forged that relationship, she started telling me things, so that I could be a better teacher. So for the worst child, the child that you think is the absolute worst, he's the child who really needs a friend, who really needs somebody on their side. And whatever they did, forgive them and find a way to bridge a gap. Because some people, a big part of the problem with addicts and alcoholics is nobody wants to be their friend. They cut off all relationship. Well, you can have the boundary. As long as you're not drunk, I'd love to be with you. If you're not taking drugs, yes, I'd love to be with you. Um, but if you're taking drugs, no, I can't. Or if you're drinking, I can't be around you. But at least that way they can make the choice. But don't completely cut them off. But yeah, it's with even with your hardest students, and so many students, they're so defensive because every little mistake, we don't know what's happening to them at home. So many children get teased, made fun of. Every time they make a mistake, somebody says something about it. That's a hard way to live, so always look for the good in kids and make sure you say something about it. The smallest thing, oh, I saw you smiling today, or I saw you helped so and so. Oh my goodness, look at how nice your handwriting is. I used to get up in front of the classroom and I would purposely misspell words, do the math wrong, get the wrong answer, so the kids could go, oh, Miss Burich, you spelled that word wrong. I did. Oh my goodness, aren't you smart? You noticed it and I didn't. Wow. Well, they would go home and go, oh, I'm smarter than the teacher. Well, you know what? My ego's intact. I don't have to be like, oh, no, you know what? That helped them feel good about themselves. So
yes.
good.
we never know what it is going on at home with every
Mhm.
single kid.
Right, their parents could be without a job. They might be, needing money. We don't know if the child eats, what they eat. Yeah, how many brothers and sisters they have. We don't know if they've got older siblings who are into drugs. We don't know what's going on in those homes. Yeah.
That is so true. Martha, I know you're going to be offering a class. Can you tell us a little bit more about that class?
Yes, I have a 6-week parenting class, and we go step by step and learn how to establish relationships with our children and how to totally turn them around. This is exactly the same information that I used to turn my son around when he was 4 and he was, oh my goodness, just thinking about it. He was so spoiled. And you know what? Within in 6 weeks, he was a different child. We just developed such a wonderful, close relationship, and I wanted to be around him because he became just pleasant, a nice person. And that's what I help parents learn how to make their children responsible and how to make their children think about others, not themselves all the time. To be a leader, you can't always be worried about what's in it for me, what's in it for me. No. If you're lonely at school, you know how you get friends? You find the person who's alone and you say, "Oh, what are you doing?" You sit with them, you have lunch with them. "Oh, can I sit with you?" You be their friend. That's how you become a leader. You don't go falling around trying to be accepted into the group. How many people who were popular in high school, they got out of high school, all they talk about are their glory days. Glory days. Well, the glory days are over. Life is today, not yesterday. Life is today. So all we can do is do our best today.
That is so true. That is so true. The more that we try to fit in, we are one, we're not being honest with ourselves, we're not loving ourselves and honoring the beautiful person that we are.
That's right.
Life is not about cookie cutters. That's something that the lessons that as parents we learn. Not our kids are cookie cutters. They have different
Mm,
ones that we have to be aware. And as an adult, you see that too. So yes,
right.
teaching your
Right. See,
how to
they used to say too many chiefs, not enough Indians. I think it's the opposite. Too many Indians, not enough chiefs. Now, a lot of Indians want to play chief. You have to develop the skills to be the chief, to be the leader, but develop those skills and lead. Stop always being a follower. The world needs leaders, examples. Those 3 L's I told you about, love them enough to say no. Lead by example. Be the person you want everyone else to be and love them and let them fail. Let your children fail and suffer the consequences. Stop driving their lunch to school when they forget it. Stop bringing their homework to school, driving over there because they forgot their homework. Let them suffer the consequences.
that is so so true. And something that I've been enforcing to my daughter it is stop trying to fit in. Because at the end, today you might fit in, tomorrow you might not fit in.
Mhm.
So fit in with yourself first.
Right. And that's exactly what you're telling her. Exactly, Monica. She needs to say, "Do I like me? Do I like me?" It doesn't matter if they like me. Do I like me? Because we've already heard, it sounds like those people that she's trying to fit in with, I don't know if they're the best people to be hanging around. Or did any of them have their own little business? Are any of them really good students? I mean, we need to really look at their character. Or is that someone that you would introduce your parents to? Is that someone that you would want your little brother or sister to be hanging around with to learn from? You got to ask yourselves the hard questions because those are those the people who are going to take you to a party and let somebody get you drunk or high and not make sure that you're safe.
It's true. That is so true. Martha, you're going to be offering your class in February. Do you have the dates or not? Or not yet, right?
No, it'll when we'll have it under the video
Yes.
when this podcast comes out. The dates and everything will be under the video, and you'll be able to sign up if you want to and find out about the in-person class or the online courses.
The information is going to be down below the video. So, or the podcast. So you're more interested to learn how to be a parent. I wish I had this information when my kids were little. It will make the life way more easy. And thank God that right now with the technology, we're having all this information to become a better parents because then we can create a better world
Mm.
for all of us. Martha, it's really been my pleasure to have you here in Soul Talk. This has been a very interesting conversation and a
I
lot
really enjoyed it, Monica. Really.
and a lot of nuggets for everybody can start thinking in a different way. We don't have to repeat the patterns of our parents.
Mm.
Thank you, Martha. I really appreciate it. And to all the viewers, if this helped you, please give us a like and subscribe and share it with your friends. It will help. It will help them too, so we can create all together a new world. Thank you so much. This is Monica Ramirez, the Warrior of Love, and thank you for being in Soul Talk.